It was exactly 8:08 p.m. when the sky over Jerusalem began to change. What started as an ordinary sunset quickly became something no one could explain. The colors of the evening sky deepened, gold, crimson and violet blending together like molten fire, and then, in complete stillness, the clouds began to shift. Within moments, witnesses from all corners of the city gasped as the clouds formed a perfect crown of light hovering above the ancient city. The glow was unlike anything seen before, soft yet powerful, radiant yet gentle, casting golden beams over the dome of the rock, the western wall, and the Mount of Olives all at once. For several minutes, the city stood silent. No cars moved, no voices rose, only the echoing heartbeat of awe that filled the air. Those who were there said the light pulsed like it was alive, each beam reaching upward as if connecting heaven and earth. Cameras captured what many now call the crown of glory, a heavenly sign that appeared at the exact time 8:08, a number believed to represent new beginnings and divine infinity. Some fell to their knees in tears, whispering prayers. Others simply stared, unable to comprehend the miracle unfolding before their eyes. Was this a sign of the king's return? A reminder that heaven still watches over Jerusalem? If you believe in God, then subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment where you're watching from, because what happens next will leave you speechless. As the clock struck 8:08 p.m., witnesses across Jerusalem began capturing videos of what they would soon call the most divine spectacle of the century. The crown-shaped formation above the city was not just seen by a handful of people. It was witnessed by thousands, from the bustling markets near the Old City to the quiet hills of the Mount of Olives. Videos flooded social media within minutes, showing the same scene from dozens of different angles. The crown of light was real. It wasn't a reflection, nor a trick of the weather. It was there, solid, radiant and symmetrical, stretching across the skyline as if carved by invisible hands. At first, scientists and meteorologists scrambled to explain it. Some claimed it could be an atmospheric halo. Others said it was a rare refraction of light from the setting sun. But when footage revealed the light-shifting shape in perfect circular harmony, glowing brighter over the Temple Mount, even skeptics were silenced. The formation lingered for 7 full minutes, never flickering, never fading. It was as if heaven itself had opened a window, allowing divine light to rest upon the city, chosen for so many prophecies. Eyewitnesses spoke with trembling voices. One woman standing near the western wall said she felt a wave of warmth rush through her chest as tears streamed down her face. Another man, a tourist from Spain, said the moment the crown appeared, the noise of the city seemed to stop. No wind, no traffic, just silence and light. Even more astonishing, reports came from Bethlehem, Tel Aviv, and even Jordan, where the same crown-like glow was seen faintly on the horizon. The phenomenon didn't belong to one nation, one religion, or one people. It belonged to everyone who looked up that night. Across Jerusalem, people reacted in awe. Rabbis, priests, and imams stepped outside their places of worship at the same time, staring at the sky with the same expression, reverence and shock. Some began to pray aloud. Others lifted their hands as if greeting the divine. It was as if all faiths had been called to witness a single, unified moment of wonder. Social media exploded with phrases like, "The king has shown his crown," and "Heaven has crowned Jerusalem." Within hours, hashtags like "Your Heavenly Crown" and "808 sign" were trending globally. Scientists tried to calm the hysteria, but they couldn't explain why the formation appeared only above Jerusalem, or why it lasted precisely 7 minutes, a number sacred in nearly every religion. The coincidence was too perfect. 8:08 p.m., a moment marked by the symbol of infinity, and 7 minutes, the number of divine completion. To the faithful, this wasn't coincidence. It was confirmation. What made it even more mysterious was what came after. When the crown finally dissolved, witnesses reported seeing a faint golden mist descend upon the city for a brief moment before vanishing completely. Many described it as peaceful, almost like a blessing settling over the rooftops and walls. For the rest of that night, people claimed to feel an unusual stillness, as though Jerusalem itself was resting beneath the gaze of something greater. Religious scholars immediately began connecting the event to ancient prophecies. Some recalled verses from Isaiah, where it is written that, "The Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light." Others mentioned the book of Revelation, which speaks of the King of Kings crowned in glory. To many, the timing and the symbolism were undeniable. This was not an ordinary light show. It was a divine declaration. By morning, pilgrims began arriving at the city, drawn by faith and curiosity. Some came to pray, others simply to stand where the crown had appeared, hoping to feel even a trace of that divine energy. Reporters, scientists, and religious leaders debated the event endlessly, but one thing was clear. At 8:08 p.m., the heavens had bowed over Jerusalem, and humanity had witnessed something that transcended explanation. The appearance of the crown of light at 8:08 p.m. ignited a wave of global attention and spiritual reflection. But for many believers and scholars, the event carried a deeper prophetic meaning. Across religious communities, the interpretation quickly centered on one unshakable theme: the sign of divine kingship. In Scripture, light is consistently tied to revelation, truth, and the presence of God. The crown formation was therefore viewed not merely as a celestial phenomenon, but as a visible declaration that heaven's authority still reigns over Jerusalem. The symmetry of the event held extraordinary symbolism. The crown, representing victory and sovereignty, appeared above the city known for centuries as the heart of faith and conflict. The time, 8:08 p.m., reinforced its message. In biblical numerology, the number 8 represents new beginnings and resurrection. When mirrored as 808, it symbolizes infinity, an endless cycle without beginning or end. To many interpreters, this suggested that the sign was a reminder of eternal kingship, the rule of the divine that cannot be challenged or diminished. The light's duration, exactly 7 minutes, reinforced this interpretation. 7 is the number of divine completion and spiritual perfection. Together, these details formed a message too precise to be dismissed as chance. Rabbis in Jerusalem referred to the event as Keser or Elion, the crown of supreme light. In their teachings, this phrase symbolizes divine wisdom descending from heaven to earth. Christian theologians quickly drew parallels to Revelation 19:12, which describes Christ crowned with many diadems, representing the fullness of his authority. Islamic scholars also noted its resonance with verses describing the final light that will shine from Jerusalem before the coming of the promised age. In each tradition, the crown was seen as a bridge between heaven and earth, a silent proclamation that divine order was once again being revealed. As religious leaders discussed the meaning, the emotional impact on ordinary people was immediate and profound. Many described a renewed sense of faith. Individuals who had long felt spiritually distant reported sudden conviction, peace, or tears of gratitude. Prayer gatherings formed spontaneously in streets, rooftops, and courtyards. In that moment, the divisions that often separate believers seemed to blur. People from different backgrounds, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, and secular, stood side by side, gazing upward in unified wonder. The symbol of a crown, traditionally linked to hierarchy, had instead become an emblem of shared reverence. The intensity of the event also stirred anticipation. Some prophetic voices suggested that the crown marked the beginning of what they called the era of illumination, a time when hidden truths would be revealed and humanity would be tested. They argued that the heavens do not display such precision without purpose. Others cautioned that signs are not ends in themselves. They are calls to return, repent, and prepare. The light over Jerusalem, they claimed, was not simply to amaze, but to awaken. Even as scientists continued to propose natural explanations, the persistence of the symbolic pattern could not be ignored. The alignment of time, place, and meaning gave the event an undeniable gravity. For those who saw it, the experience became more than a spectacle. It was an encounter with the sacred, woven into the fabric of the ordinary sky. By the next day, one conclusion had begun to take hold across the faithful. This was not just light, it was a message. The crown had not appeared to glorify a city or a people, but to remind the world that sovereignty belongs to the divine alone. In the words whispered by one rabbi near the western wall that night, "The king has shown his crown. The heavens have spoken. The earth must listen." As the light of the crown over Jerusalem faded into the night sky, what followed was nothing short of a global awakening. Within hours, videos of the event flooded every social media platform imaginable: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and news outlets from every corner of the world. Millions watched in awe as the clips showed the glowing crown of light hovering perfectly above the ancient city. People who had never set foot in Jerusalem felt an unexplainable connection, describing chills, tears, and an overwhelming sense of peace as they watched the footage. It wasn't just a city's moment, it became a world's revelation. In the following days, the event dominated headlines. Scientists, spiritual leaders, and journalists all tried to understand it. CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera released statements acknowledging the footage was genuine, with no sign of manipulation or projection. Meteorologists analyzed atmospheric conditions and found no natural explanation for a light formation that symmetrical, that intense, and that precisely timed. Even skeptics were forced to admit it was beyond coincidence. The timing, the shape, and the location all carried meaning. At 8:08 p.m., the sky had crowned the most sacred city on earth. What was even more powerful, however, was the spiritual reaction that followed. Churches, synagogues, and mosques across the world began to hold prayer vigils. Leaders from different faiths issued joint statements, calling the event a message of unity and hope from the heavens. Thousands gathered at the Western Wall in Jerusalem, lighting candles, singing psalms, and whispering prayers beneath the same sky where the crown had appeared. For the first time in decades, the city felt united, not by politics or power, but by a shared sense of divine presence. Reports began to surface of strange yet beautiful coincidences following the event. In several countries at exactly 8:08 p.m. local time, the clouds formed radiant patterns resembling halos or arcs of light. In one instance, a group of children in Italy claimed they saw a golden ring in the sky right as they were praying for peace. In Brazil, a church reported that all the bells began to ring by themselves during their evening service. The world seemed to be responding, almost echoing the light that had crowned Jerusalem. Spiritual leaders began interpreting the event as the beginning of a divine alignment, a moment when heaven was drawing attention to the need for humanity's return to faith, compassion, and truth. The crown, one rabbi explained, is not only a symbol of sovereignty, it is also a symbol of responsibility. A reminder that light has been given to us, and it is our duty to reflect it. A Christian pastor from America echoed this sentiment, calling it a wake-up call for the nations. An imam in Jordan described it as the light of mercy covering the world before the dawn of judgment. This shared reverence transcended the boundaries of religion. Pilgrims from all faiths began traveling to Jerusalem in unprecedented numbers, not out of fear, but out of longing, to stand where the heavens had once bowed. News outlets started referring to it as the miracle of 808. For many, it was proof that signs and wonders still occur, that heaven still reaches down when the world grows dark. And while scientists continued to study and debate, those who believed didn't need proof. They already knew what their hearts had felt. That night, the sky itself had declared a truth beyond understanding. A king reigns, and his light still crowns his creation. In the days that followed, one phrase echoed across the world: "The heavens have crowned Jerusalem, but will we crown heaven in our hearts?" It was more than a question. It was a calling, a divine whisper reminding humanity that light does not just shine above us, it waits to shine within us. In the days that followed the crown over Jerusalem, the world stood in awe. But as the days turned into weeks, something even deeper began to take hold. The event at 8:08 p.m. was no longer just a mystery to be studied or debated. It had become a message, a call to reflection, faith, and preparation. The skies had spoken in symbols, and now hearts around the globe began to ask, what was heaven trying to say? For many believers, the meaning was clear. The crown was not just a spectacle, it was a sign of divine sovereignty, a heavenly reminder that God still reigns, no matter how dark or divided the world may seem. Prophets, pastors, and rabbis began echoing a single, powerful sentiment. The king is revealing his crown before his return. They drew from ancient prophecies in the book of Isaiah, which speaks of the Lord as a crown of glory for his people, and from Revelation, which describes the heavens preparing for the day the true King of Kings will appear. Could it be that the light above Jerusalem was a warning? A final call before the next great move of God? Those who experienced the event firsthand could not forget it. Many reported vivid dreams and visions in the nights that followed. Dreams of light flooding the world, of trumpets sounding in the distance, and of people from every nation gathering together in worship. Prayer movements began forming across continents, all inspired by the same conviction. The heavens are speaking again. Social media was filled with testimonies of changed lives, addictions broken, relationships restored, and people returning to faith after years of distance. It was as if the crown had awakened something dormant in humanity's spirit. At the same time, others saw the event as a divine warning, not of destruction, but of accountability. They believed the crown symbolized not only authority but judgment, reminding the world that while heaven's mercy is vast, its justice is real. One rabbi near the Western Wall said, "When a king shows his crown, it means he is about to move." Those words spread quickly, sparking discussions about readiness, purity, and the state of the world's moral compass. Across denominations, people began asking themselves, if heaven revealed its light tonight, would I be ready to stand in it? As the phenomenon continued to ripple through global consciousness, the world seemed to enter a quiet season of awakening. Families began praying together again. Strangers reconciled. People who had never spoken of faith found themselves talking about the light over Jerusalem at work, in schools, and even in government offices. In a time when division had defined humanity for so long, a moment of unity sparked by a heavenly crown had changed the narrative. Then came a new wave of reflection among spiritual leaders. They began to speak not of fear, but of hope, that the crown was a reminder that the world's story was not ending, but entering a new chapter. They pointed out that 808 represents infinity, a continuous loop, an eternal cycle of renewal. The message, they said, was not just the king is coming, but the king has never left. His light remains, even in the darkest skies. And so, as people continue to look to the heavens, the event of 8:08 p.m. stands as a timeless call, a call to awaken, to return and to remember who truly reigns. The crown of light was never meant to stay in the sky. It was meant to be reflected in the hearts of those who witnessed it. For in the end, the greatest miracle was not the light above Jerusalem, but the light that began to glow within humanity once again. The heavens crowned the city, but the real question remains, have we crowned the Creator in our hearts?